Hello and welcome to the Women of Ambition podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa Calder-Hume. The Women of Ambition podcast explores female ambition. First, the radical act of acknowledging it within ourselves. Second, allowing space to explore what ambition means for each of us. And third, harnessing and developing our drive. I'm really excited to share this episode with my guest, Tiphany. She shares a fantastic story of how she had to twice rebuild her life from scratch in order to live in her truth and discover a relationship with herself, and how previously the lack of relationship with self caused her illness, really unhealthy relationships, and a setup in life that was really boxing her in, and how she chose out of those poor relationships and out of the denial of self that was essential to survive those relationships in order to build a relationship with herself. And this conversation is so full of joy and hope and beauty. And it's also so full of the ability to be present and serve our family and friends. And that is one of the beautiful things about this process of coming to know ourselves and building that ambitious relationship with self, is that it allows us to show up for other people fully and wholly and with an open heart. Today, I have Tiphany Kane here. Thanks so much for being on, Tiphany.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I love those 3 pillars. Those are really exciting.
They are. I agree.
Yes.
So Tiphany is the Heck Yes coach, and she has the podcast, The Radical Audacity of Heck Yes, which I absolutely love. I have a whole thing about scream joy that we talk about on this podcast, and choosing in with a heck yes, absolutely equivalent. So she is currently a public school educator, but is about to make an exciting change that she's going to talk to us a little bit about. So right now on the Women of Ambition podcast, we're going to look at relationships. And there are all different kinds of relationships, but I really want to begin this conversation by looking at our relationship with ourself.
That is the most important relationship of all, isn't it?
It is. And cultivating a healthy relationship is very ambitious in the world we live in. It's so easy to forget about ourselves, and we're worried about friends and family and external things. So today I want to talk with you about choosing yourself and choosing your relationship with yourself and what that's looked like for you. But first, let's start with what ambition has looked like for you in your life, because I know it's going to dovetail into this conversation.
You know, I love this discussion of ambition. It's so important because so many times we are told that we are bad for having ambition. I was certainly raised to believe that. I went into a career that does not encourage ambition. My marriage definitely didn't encourage ambition. So I feel like my entire life, I have been this person screaming hell yes inside, but completely suffocating on the outside, right? And so here I am, 48 years old, and I am like, I'm not going to suffocate anymore. Everything in my life now is going to be a hell yes. I'm going to choose the things that serve me and serve my dreams and my goals and my ambitions. And it's actually a really loving way to live in the world, because when I do that, I am happier and healthier. I'm better to my children. I'm better to my friends. I'm like the biggest rah cheerleader for every other woman out there. And I can do that because I'm choosing me and my hell yes things.
Absolutely. I love that. How did you come about choosing yourself and developing, like, knowing yourself well enough to then show up for other people?
That's definitely a journey. And it's a journey I will be working on probably till I die. So just backtracking just a tiny bit, well, a lot, 48 years, as a young girl being raised in a really, really patriarchal religion, a very strict religion. I had a role to serve, and it was a very predefined role. And my voice was not important. My feelings, my opinions were not important. And I was told that message over and over again. My whole purpose in life was to be subservient to men, that it was their voices, their roles, their prayers that were important. And in every way, shape, and form, I had to make myself subservient. And if I had the audacity to say a prayer in public, I had to cover my head to show my subservience. So, and I certainly couldn't say a prayer out loud if a man was in the room, was not allowed to
Wow.
do that. Yes.
So you
So,
couldn't even access yourself without
no,
involving a man.
no, could
Wow.
not, could
Okay.
not. So, that was what I was raised with. And I left that at 20 years old. Well, 19, 20, which meant that I left everybody and everything I knew. I lost my family to this day. My mom doesn't talk to me. My sister doesn't talk to me because I no longer really exist in their eyes because I turned my back on that religion. So at 19, I really chose myself and just said, this doesn't work. And I'm going to lose a lot. I lost every childhood friend other than one. I'm going to lose my family. I packed up my car and drove 3,000 miles away from Florida to California to just say, okay, I've got it. I'm going to start life on my terms. I wasn't allowed to go to college, and I really, really wanted to go to college. And so I left home and I spent the next 8 years working full time and making my way through college. And because I really wanted my degree. And so I think that's really where choosing myself started. I chose a lot of pain. Honestly, I chose a lot of pain, but the pain I chose was so much less than the pain of really not existing, of being told over and over again that my voice and my opinion and my desires and my dreams were not valid or important. And that was more painful than losing those people that I loved.
What did you reach that decision at 20, or did you make it earlier and wait? What was that like?
It was probably right around there. There was a series of events that happened that culminated into me saying, all right, I've tried this long enough. And I was a very, very devoutly religious person. I was in it, heart and soul. And, one of the shining examples of the religion. And a series of events happened where I just said, this doesn't feel right to me. One of the things that happened was for me to get baptized, I had to go through a series of, I think it was 80 questions with 3 different elders. And they had to, say that I was acceptable to be baptized. And I was in high school at the time. And I had a dance teacher who was homosexual. And in my religion, that was not somebody, that was a deadly sin, right? Like God does not like homosexuals. And he was really my first one that I'd ever encountered openly.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved him. He was such a good human being. He was so fun to be around. He cared so much about the kids in the dance class. He really wanted us to be our best. And I remember thinking, but he's a good person. How could God say that he's not? I don't understand this. This doesn't compute with everything I've been taught. And I remember bringing it up to the elders during one of my sessions with the 80 questions. And they told me that I needed to re-examine my faith, that I should not be asking questions, that I should just have faith. And I think that started it. Within a year, I left because I did end up getting baptized, but I got baptized because that's what I should do.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized after that, no, I can't be in a religion that has these sweeping generalizations about people that just aren't true. I just could not believe in a God like that. It did not fit with my understanding of the divine.
Mm-hmm.
So that was probably one of my first big, heck yes, choosing me, and choosing the pain of really leaving everything because in that religion is your family. You're completely separated from the world.
Mm-hmm.
It is your family. It is everything you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I left it.
So
So,
you were essentially you were creating your identity from scratch because your
yes,
identity was the community.
yes.
How in the world did you what how did you get the audacity to think you could do that? And how did
Right?
you do that? Like, was that a rough time to figure
Yeah,
out who you were?
totally rough time. And Alyssa, what ended up happening, I moved from Florida to California. Within a couple months of moving, I met the man who I would marry. And because I had been raised to believe women were subservient to men, and because I had been raised to believe you date to get married, not you date to figure out what you like and what works for you, I dated this man and married him because I thought that's what you should do.
Mm-hmm.
And every relationship I'd been privy to had a lot of problems, which is going to happen when the man is
All powerful?
all powerful and the woman is subservient, right? There's a lot of problems. And so in my head, the problems that we had in our relationship, just that's how it goes. Men are not necessarily kind to women. There are, it was a very toxic, harmful, hurtful relationship in a lot of ways. There were happy times, of course. It wasn't 100% bad, but overall, it was not a good relationship. And so I do think I fell into that relationship because I left what I was in and it was kind of the next comfortable place. I didn't have family, I didn't have community. I
Mm-hmm.
was so hungry for affection.
Mm-hmm.
And so I fell into that. And I was with him for 19 years because I'm one of those people that will make things work. I will work and work and work and work hard. And then, it was 19 years later, they said, no, this doesn't work for me. And so I left the marriage with two young children and started over. So that was kind of my next, radical act of, okay, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
choose me. Divorce is
Yeah.
painful. Divorce is ugly in so many ways, but the pain of that was less than the pain of me being completely lost in the marriage. And my identity had totally been erased again.
Wow.
So it was almost like every 19 years, right? You
It's
realize,
I think it's really amazing. You can leave a whole community, you can leave a whole religion, you can leave the state, you can leave the side of the country you live on, and yet there are still these parts that we take with us that
oh, yeah.
we don't realize that we still have this like deficit of
Mm-hmm,
self, and so we fill it with
mm-hmm.
something else, and then you have to learn that lesson that this doesn't work. What
Yeah.
did you learn about yourself in that marriage where you were like, this doesn't fit for me?
I learned that when you are not living in your integrity, when you are consistently living to somebody else's view of you and what they say you should and shouldn't be doing, you literally physically become ill. Your
Mm-hmm.
body cannot survive in those situations. And that was the point I got to, where the toxicity in the relationship and the marriage was so bad. And I had lost myself so far that I ended up being hospitalized a couple of times because my blood pressure was out of control. My thyroid was out of control. My kidneys were doing really bad. At one point, I was on probably 12 different medications,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody could really give me a definitive answer of what was wrong. Right. I was literally physically failing because things were so bad and I was so not being true to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And within less than a year of leaving that marriage, I was off every single medication except one. Um, and like you, I had a very, very difficult pregnancy. So I'm left with one issue from pregnancy that is a forever issue. But other than that, like, I'm not on any medication.
Mm-hmm.
I am healthy. It's been 7 years and I'm good. And that to me is a very physical evidence of when you do not choose yourself, when you do not live in your integrity and your authenticity, you don't live. You will, parts of you will die. And
Yeah.
so it becomes vital, it becomes imperative to choose yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. That's life or death. And
It's
it
truly.
is. And
Mm-hmm.
it will, I think it will always get to that point if we let it.
Hmm.
It will always come to that point.
Hmm.
Um, I'm reminded of the way that addiction works, and
Hmm.
any addiction will end in death
Yes.
unless you get help. And it sounds like you might have had like a codependent type of situation, and your physical body will shut down
Hmm.
if you are not living in harmony with your true self. Okay, so you are sick
Hmm.
and getting choosing to get divorced while sick, it sounds
Yes.
like.
Yes.
That sounds terrifying.
Utterly. But once again, just like being 19 and leaving my religion and my family and starting all over, as terrifying as leaving the marriage and starting all over and all of the, financial challenges, and once again, completely losing my community, because when you're with a toxic person and you're in an abusive relationship, you are extraordinarily isolated.
Mm-hmm.
So my entire community was around that marriage and his friends, very controlling who I could be friends with. So once again, I'm 100% starting over from scratch, creating my own community. But even with that, that was less painful than completely losing myself.
Mm-hmm.
That, and I think this is what the message I would like to get across to your listeners is: the most ambitious thing you can do, the most audacious thing you can do, is choose yourself and your health. And it is not selfish, because when I was in the hospital, my children were suffering, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I couldn't function, my children were suffering. Now I'm a happy, healthy mom, and we have fun and we do things and we have experiences, and I'm able to be there for them and fully participate in their life. So, me choosing myself didn't make me selfish. It made me healthy, and it made me able to participate in my community in such a better way. I am the biggest advocate for community and togetherness and elevating other women and this abundance of, opportunity out there. And I can only do that because I chose myself. So it's the complete lack of selfishness, right? It's the complete
Mm-hmm.
opposite. Is you're almost more selfish when you're in that should space and you're in that conforming space and you're in that small space, because there's so much scarcity and lack of abundance that you live in a place of kind of regret and
Resentment.
resentment and pain and smallness. And that to me is more selfish,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't give of yourself when you're in that place.
Yeah, I know what you're I know the energy, the vibe you're talking about, because
Mhm.
in that space of living small, you're constantly bumping up against the edges of what you're allowed to do, of what you
Mhm.
think you're capable of doing. You're reliving your pain over and over again. It's really hard to
Constant.
be present when you are resentful
Mhm.
and constantly checking yourself.
Mhm.
That's not freedom.
No, and you're always worried. Well, what is this
Yeah.
person going to think of me? And what is that person going to think of me? And is
And
this the right thing to do?
it's very
It
self-centered.
is.
Not in a selfish way, but like you have to center your experience because you're constantly feeling unsafe, and so you're
Mhm.
living in that fear, the fight or flight constantly.
And your safety is dependent on others.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the big ugly fact, listeners: you're never going to please everybody else. There is always going to be somebody you're too loud for. There's somebody you're too quiet for. There's somebody you're too busy for. There's somebody that is thinking you're not doing enough. There is somebody that you're never going to be enough for everybody. So you just have to be enough for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then your people will love you. And then the people that aren't your people, you don't worry about, because they're on their own journey and their own path.
Well, they fall away so much faster. It's like
Mm-hmm.
the refiner's fire. They suddenly aren't in your life anymore. When you're living true to yourself, the people who keep coming back want to be there, not
Mm-hmm.
because you're playing a role, but because they see you and they're like, "Oh, that's awesome. I want more of
Mm-hmm.
that."
Mm-hmm.
And like, what freedom is that to know your friends actually love you and like you?
Right. Right. Exactly.
Okay, so you've left your husband, you're still sick, and now you are, what's the next chapter?
I went and got I went and got my master's degree. And I just started saying yes to everything. I joined a cycling club and did a 100-mile bike ride. I'd never been on a road bike before, right? I'd never been on anything other than a beach cruiser. But I'm like, somebody invited me and I said, heck yes. And I went and bought a bike and bought the kit, and somebody gave me a helmet, and I started riding and ended up doing a whole bunch of rides and culminated in a 100-mile bike ride. I went and ran several marathons and started coaching my son's marathon team. I I started doing aerial dance, which is hoops and
Cool.
silks and trapeze and stuff like that. And I just said yes. And I started performing that. And I was, at that point, like 42 years old, probably the old lady on the hoop, but I didn't care. I'm just going to do it and have fun. And so I just started saying yes to things and experiences and going for it. And some things were fantastic and wonderful. And some things were like, yeah, okay, I experienced that. Won't do that again. But it's just this whole, like the last 7 years have been heck yes. Like, okay, let's go for it. Opportunity comes my way. I'm going to try it out. And it may be fantastic. And it may be like, okay, well, that doesn't work for me. But as long as it's in integrity and in alignment and is something that is interesting to me, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try it out.
I love that. That actually fits a pattern that I've identified in talking with the women on this podcast, where when you recognize your ambition and you're allowing yourself to do it, you go through three stages. There's like the experimenting stage where you're
Mm-hmm.
just like, I'm just going to try a whole bunch of things. I don't even know what I want. I don't know what I
Mm-hmm.
like. I'm going to just say yes to stuff and see what I like. And
Mm-hmm.
then you pick a handful of things that you actually do like and you test it out and say, okay, what path do I want to take? I don't know which path. And then you choose the path and then you refine it and you grow it and you keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And those three steps are just delightful. It's so
They are.
fun. It's so freeing. It's playful to be able to choose what you want and be your own authority and say, I don't like that. I'm going to stop doing that. And in January, we talked about practicing ambition and practicing setting goals and trusting yourself. And I love that you tried so many fun physical things, because that is one way that we can grow trust for ourselves. When we try
Yes.
something new and you like it, we're going to keep going with it. You want to complete a marathon? Okay, we're going to set that goal and we're going to complete it. And we're going to
Mm-hmm.
prove to ourselves that we can do that. And it can be something really small. It can be like for me, walk around my lake next to my house. I'm just going
Mm-hmm.
to prove myself that I can do it, and then build up to those bigger and bigger
Yep.
goals. Learn to trust yourself. You learn what you like and what you don't like, because that's really
Mm-hmm.
important.
It's so
Instead of being
important.
frozen in, I don't know what I want, I don't know what I want, well, just try anything and you
Mm-hmm.
will come away with information. Maybe it was the terrible choice for you and you hated cycling and now you will never have to do it again.
Well, like I tried ballroom dance.
Uh huh.
And I was like, I did a series of, I don't know, 7 classes. So I did all seven, but it wasn't for me. It's just a little too like structured and formal, and you have to remember too much. And people get sweaty and you're touching them. And so it didn't work for me, but that's okay. I
Well,
had fun.
and that's awesome. You learned something about yourself, which is
Right.
really the point.
Yeah, I don't like the structure. But listeners, I wish you could see Alyssa's face as she was talking about this, going and trying things. Your face literally lit up and glowed, and your smile was ear to ear. And that's exactly what happens when you try, when you say yes, when you explore. It's just so freaking fun. It's just
Hmm.
fun. And what you learn about yourself is so amazing. And especially if you give yourself the space to say, I'm experimenting, I'm trying. I don't have to be the expert at this.
Hmm.
And you give yourself that space, and you do these with safe people. For me, when I started running, it was quite literally the only time I talked positively to myself. I had been in such a toxic environment for so long that everything I said about myself was so awful. You're dumb, you're fat, you're getting wrinkled, you're a terrible mom, you're a terrible wife, you can't keep the house clean, you can't get dinner done on time, you burn dinner, you undercooked it, whatever. Like I could never get anything right. You can't keep the budget. And so my self-talk was 100% negative. But when I started these challenges and I started trying new things and giving myself permission to just try it, I started talking nicely to myself. And I got really addicted to that. I was like, I think I'm going to go for a run today because it's time for me to talk nice to myself.
Mm-hmm.
and and that part of it became addictive. And then it started spilling over into other parts of life.
Well,
Right.
yeah, when you know your own worth, why would
Mm-hmm.
you? It's so much easier to identify when someone doesn't value you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, I'm just not going to opt into that because I know how I want to feel, what energy I want to have, what I'm capable of doing. And it's so much easier to choose healthy relationships in that space than trying to do it while you're still in that really painful negative talk
And
world.
I'm really glad you said that, because when you are dating post divorce, a lot of us date from a very hurt place, a very painful place. And then we end up repeating the
Mm-hmm.
same mistakes and the same patterns. But if you are working on yourself and loving yourself and understanding who you are and having a strong relationship with yourself, then you do realize when you're with somebody that is not respecting your boundaries. And it doesn't even have to be a dramatic, he cheated on me. It can very simply be, um, I told him that this situation made me uncomfortable. And he told me I was silly, that I wasn't reading the situation correctly, that every man looks at a woman, that my feelings were not valid.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be with the person that says my feelings aren't valid. It doesn't have to be anything dramatic. It can be as simple as, this person just told me that my boundaries and my feelings are not important to him. And he thinks I'm silly for voicing these. I don't need to be with a person like that.
Yeah.
And that right there, you're choosing yourself.
Yeah. And you're learning when you have that mental thing to bounce off of, when it's not
Mm-hmm.
just emptiness and need, then when
Mm-hmm.
people show you who they truly are, you say, okay, that's who you are. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work for me. You showed
Yep.
me who you are. I'm going to believe you.
Yep.
And it
Release you
makes,
with love. I
yeah,
can
and then it
release you with
makes
love. I don't have
space
to be
for the
mad at
right
you.
thing.
Yep. Don't have to
And
be mad at
it's
you.
so much less personal.
Yeah.
It's cleaner.
Yep.
I don't know how to describe it. Like it's
It
just,
totally is.
oh, okay, that's you're showing me this isn't correct. I know that this isn't what I want. Okay, I got to move on to the
Mm-hmm.
next thing.
No hard feelings. Gotcha. There's somebody out there for you, but it's not me.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that example of running. For me, it's easier to get into a mental state when I have something like physical to go and do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can apply it to, well, I need positive self-talk when I'm building my business or
Mm-hmm.
when I'm trying to repair my marriage. And um, that application, I think, just gets easier. These are things we can do to
Yeah.
practice and to grow.
Yeah.
I think it's so beautiful that you naturally fell into this pattern where you're learning and growing and it's like an upward spiral. I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times we think we're in a circle, we're reliving our experiences, but with more effort and more positive energy and more self-love, like that will improve over time. And it sounds like
Absolutely.
that's what the last.
I've been divorced for 7. Yeah.
Okay,
So
okay.
it's been my, yeah, the last 7 years of really leaning into that. Yeah. Self-love.
What
I
have you
call it.
discovered about yourself? What new things have you unwrapped? It's so exciting.
It is exciting. Um, I've unwrapped just passion. Like I have so much passion for so much, whether it's art, books, music, hiking, stand-up paddleboarding, uh playing with my kids, hanging out. Like I have this totally sexy significant other right now, like like
Awesome.
I just love, I have so much passion, and I'm so happy to be able to share that passion with the world and like lean into it and try things and explore things. um I have discovered that just people are really cool. I spent a lot of my life introverted and hidden and worried about my effect on other people. And I didn't want to bother people, and I didn't want them to think I was too much. And I didn't, like that very uncomfortable, shy hiding. And
Well,
I've
surviving, it was survival.
Yeah. And I've always described myself as kind of like shy and introverted and all of that. And there is a piece of me that is that. But I've also realized that I really love people. People fascinate me. And I love doing things that allow me to get to know them and to elevate them. Like if there is anything I can do to be your rah rah girl, I'm going to be your rah rah girl because I just, it brings me so much joy. And so that's a real fun side of myself that I
So,
didn't know I had.
so I want to go back to that because we were talking about selfishness and how choosing to love yourself is actually the opposite of selfishness. It allows you to help
Mm-hmm,
other people. And like how much more energy and
mm-hmm,
power you have to go and amplify other
mm-hmm.
people. And I'm sure that it doesn't have to perfectly align with your beliefs or with what is important to you. You have that energy and you can help other people even if they're not exactly the same as you. And
Exactly.
that is the place of power. That is the
Mm-hmm,
place of true service and unconditional love.
mm-hmm,
When you are whole,
mm-hmm.
it's just a really beautiful thing. So anyway, keep
Thank
going.
you. It feels, I'm going to say thank you and I'm going to receive that because it does feel beautiful. It feels expansive. It feels fantastic. It feels joyful. And I purposely bring women, like I created my own mastermind of women. Like I reached out to women. I'm like, I think you're fantastic. And I think you're fantastic. And I think you're fantastic and you're fantastic. Let's create a mastermind. Let's meet a couple of times a month. Let's talk about all these things we're trying to do. And let's figure out how to make it all happen together. Right.
So
That's,
cool.
that's so cool. Right. Like how fun to be able to celebrate and support other women and say, I let's change the world together, Yeah.
I love it. It's awesome. Okay, so I know that you part of the last couple of years, you're transitioning in your career right now. So
Hmm.
tell us about this ambitious career shift and maybe explain why it is so ambitious and why it's maybe viewed as risky from other perspectives.
It's insanely risky. And I get people so many people that I tell what I'm doing will send me text messages and quotes and articles all explaining why what I'm doing is wrong. And I just look at it and I smile. I'm like, okay, thank you. And they're well intentioned. But so I have been in public education for the last 20 years. What I got my master's degree in educational administration 4 years ago and moved out of the classroom and into more of an administrative type of role where I'm training teachers and more in professional development. And I really thought I wanted to explore that part of my career more. But the more I explored it, the more brick walls I hit, and the more I realized they don't want me.
Mm,
Because every time I interviewed for another position, the feedback I got was, you're great, you're super qualified, you're a terrific candidate, but you have too much passion. You're too much of a change maker.
mhm.
You want too much.
Too ambitious.
Exactly. Exactly. I kid you not, those were the exact words that I was used because I always ask for a debrief when I don't get a position that I apply for. Which everybody listening, you should always do that. Have a
Mhm.
debrief. It's a very smart thing to do. Get that feedback. And I'm really glad because every time I did that and I got feedback that said, where they use the words, you are too passionate, you're too much of a change maker. We need somebody that will follow the rules more. Basically, they were saying, change yourself to a yes woman and then
Yeah.
you get the job.
Yeah, be
You're very
compliant.
qualified. We really liked you. You interviewed well, but we need a yes person in this
And
job.
that's not your gift to the world.
It's not my gift to the world. It's somebody else's gift to the world. We need yes people. We need people that are just, let's just get things done. That's fine. Everybody's got their place they belong. That's not my place. I'm a change maker. I'm an ideas person. I come into a situation and go, A, B, and C aren't working. Okay, let's try XYZ. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try DEF. That didn't work. What other alphabet letters can we try? Let's do this. I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid of failing. I'm not afraid of trying. And that's not what they needed. And so after a lot of soul searching, I realized that I needed to leave public education, that I just don't fit there anymore. And so that's, that's leaving uh, health insurance, nice retirement, steady paycheck. I mean, it's only 10 paychecks a year, but at least you know what you're getting and when you're getting it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's my career, it's 20 years. I put a lot of time into it. And I have decided that I'm not signing a new contract this year, come hell or high water, and I'm making my own way in the world. And since I made that declaration, Alyssa, portals have opened for me.
I believe it.
Opportunities have come pouring in. And so that's why when somebody sends me an article or a quote about, you know, why stability and safety and security are so important, I can just smile and say, thank you. Thank you for being concerned. But that's not my path. You know, the stability, safety, security are really important, but not for me right now at this moment. I can still have stability, safety, and security while also following my dreams.
And you
And
can do that because you know yourself
yeah.
and you're grounded in yourself. You're not just trying things, flailing.
Mm-hmm.
You're very centered, and so you can trust yourself
Now, I'm
and
not going
move
to lie,
forward.
Alyssa. There are times I'm pouring my hot tea in the morning and I start hyperventilating and going, what the heck am I doing? I'm not signing a new contract. Oh my God. Because this has been my life for 20 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have little panic attacks. I'm not going to lie,
Yeah.
but I'm okay with that. I've been through harder. I've been through harder things, Alyssa.
Yeah.
So, I got this.
Okay, so what's the new thing? Tell us.
So I started a media production company, which is really exciting. And it happened because I started podcasting and I loved podcasting so much that I started teaching people how to podcast. And the people that I taught how to podcast loved my style and my coaching and everything so much that they wanted to stay with me. So I started a membership group, and now the membership group is turning into a podcasting network. And it's just growing and expanding in these really exciting ways. I literally had somebody reach out to me and say, I want to do a podcast, but I don't want to do it. Can you do it for me? So that's called white labeling a podcast. So that's part of, that's an opportunity that just dropped in my lap.
So
And
cool.
because I'm loving what I'm doing. And so that's part of my media production company is we white label podcasts and we train podcasters, and we are launching a podcasting network. Actually, when this episode airs, the network will be launched. So it's all very exciting. It's just it's thrilling, and the thrilling thing to me about everything that I am doing, I am helping somebody along their path. Right, I'm helping new podcasters break through their mindset barriers to get their voice out and be heard. I am helping current podcasters feel supported and find ways to grow and monetize their podcasts so that their message can continue being told. And with the network, then it's elevating podcasters to have an even bigger impact in the world through writing and speaking engagements and all of that kind of stuff, so that everything's very expansive. And that's joyful for me. And every day I wake up with a new idea. Every day, my poor boyfriend, he's like, oh, Tiphany, what's your idea now? Because I'm so David, what if? And he's like, and he's so sweet. He's like, okay. And he's always along for the ride. He's always a supporter,
That is
as
so
much as
fantastic.
I am constantly keeping him on his toes.
Sounds like you make a good team.
We do.
We need all of us. We need all of us to make it work.
Yeah.
I love how you have found joy along the path to doing these ambitious things because you've aligned your values with your goals, and
Mm-hmm.
you're doing it together, and you're doing ambition, you're exercising ambition, living in alignment with your true deep values and knowing yourself, and how you can choose into new experiences that are scary and terrifying and
Mm-hmm.
risky,
Mm-hmm.
but still feel so passionately about it, and spiral upward.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Spiral upward. I love that. Spiral upward. There you go. Another, you keep saying things that need to be put on t-shirts and coffee mugs. So I think you need a line of your own products.
A little
Yeah,
shop
you
on my
do.
site. I
Mm-hmm.
love it.
Yeah, you have a lot of really great one-liners that definitely need to be captured and shared with the world. I love it.
Thank you so much. Okay, so in closing, what do you want to leave our ambitious women with in the pursuit of having an ambitious relationship with themselves, having a really deeply, truly knowing themselves, being healthy and grounded?
Mm. Oh my gosh. I if I could have every woman firmly believe in her worth and her value and her opinion, and that she matters. She doesn't have to ask anybody else for permission to feel that way, to do what she's going to do. If I could have every woman just deeply rooted at her core say, who I am is enough, and who I am is more than enough. I'm freaking amazing. And they can just from that place say hell yes to life, then I would be so happy.
I am totally there with you. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Okay, this has been a joy
Thank you.
to
I feel
speak
the
with
same way.
you. It's like symbiotic, like we're all getting happy and like
Mm-hmm.
it's like the energy's rising and it's all positive. So thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing your journey. It's been a beautiful story to share and a
Thank
beautiful
you.
life that you have chosen for yourself.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so if people want to find you, where would you like them to go?
I'm really active on Instagram at Tiphany Kane, Tiphany, my podcast, I have two podcasts. So one of them is Mastering the Podcaster Mindset. That's just focusing on having fun podcasting. And my second one is the Radical Audacity of Hell Yes. So you can find me on wherever podcasts are listened to. And, I'm over on Facebook too as Tiphany Kane. You can find me on all the places as Tiphany Kane. So I just decided to own my name and put it everywhere. So come find me.
Awesome. I love that title, The Radical Audacity of Heck Yes.
That's right.
So many like punchy words in there. Go let's go have the audacity to say heck yes to choosing ourselves and to living
Right.
in alignment. And like, yes, it's hard. It is hard and painful, but it is so worth it. I
Mhm.
can bear testimony of that right now. It is worth it to know yourself, to shed those relationships that don't fit, that just aren't healthy, that aren't evolving with you. It's beautiful life,
Love
and I
that.
want everyone to live it
Me too.
and feel the joy. So
Hmm.
thank you
Me too.
for having this conversation. This has been absolutely wonderful.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. And your listeners are really lucky to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Women of Ambition podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening to Tiphany as much as I did and exploring an ambitious relationship with self. Next week, we're going to be talking with Bela, who is going to teach us a little bit about a concept I've never actually heard about before called matrescence, and that is the biological changes that happen in a woman when she becomes a mother. And that conversation is going to be a really beautiful bridge from the relationship with self to the relationship with other people in our lives as ambitious women. So join in next week to continue the conversation, and I look forward to seeing you then. As always, you can find more episodes on womenofambitionpodcast.com and find us on Instagram at Women of Ambition Podcast.